This man, Rui March, sitting in his office, watched his television in horror as the video footage from the November 12, 1991 East Timor massacre was shown on the news. Rui turned to his co-workers at Forum Estudante magazine, where he was director, and said to them, "We must do something." And thus the peace mission to East Timor was born. Within months, Rui and his fellow organizers had raised enough money to bring together 120 students and journalists from around the world. The purpose of the mission was to make a plea for human rights by laying a wreath of flowers at the Santa Cruz Cemetery, where so many Timorese, mainly students, were massacred that fateful day. The hope was to remind the world of the human rights violations in East Timor and of the urgency for dialogue and international action. The mission did not request from the Indonesian government any kind of authorization because, according to the United Nations, East Timor is under Portuguese administration. Therefore, it didn't make sense to ask permission of Indonesia to peacefully visit a territory over which it had no internationally acknowledged legal powers. The mission began here, in Lisbon, where the Portuguese president greeted us with words of encouragement.
Sabem bem que em novembro passado houve massacre no cemitério de Dili.
You know that on the 12th of November last year there was a massacre in the Dili cemetery.
Que emocionou o mundo inteiro, particularmente Portugal.
And of course we were very, at that time, and all the world in fact, we were very disturbed for those events.
Os jovens portugueses tiveram a ideia generosa de ir pôr ramos de flores nas tumbas dos mortos desse massacre.
The young Portuguese people, they have a very generous idea of going to Timor to lay a wreath on the tombs of those that fell on that massacre.
É uma ideia que partiu deles, não dos Estados Unidos.
That was an initiative of those young people, not from the Portuguese state as a whole.
Não foram ajudados por ninguém, nem pela Presidência da República, nem pelo Governo, nem pela Assembleia da República.
They have not been helped either by the presidency or by the government or neither by parliament.
Foi uma reação da sociedade civil, deles como seres livres que são.
It was an initiative of themselves as free-will human beings as they are. I myself can only admire the efforts of those people that took this initiative.
Eles vão, conhecedores do risco. Vocês vão.
So, you are going there, knowing the risks you are going to run.
Eu desejo-vos boa sorte.
I wish you good luck.
E admiro a vossa generosidade.
And I admire your generosity and your courage.
E eu agradeço também a generosidade dos estudantes estrangeiros que, como jovens que são, abraçam as causas justas. E enquanto houver juventude no mundo que seja capaz de lutar por aquilo que é justo, nós podemos ter confiança no futuro.
As long as there are young people in the world that fight for the just causes, we may be hopeful about the future of the world. So the President would like to thank the generosity mainly of those foreigners who are here present.
We obviously could not fly over Indonesia, and because of this we had to find somewhere to stop to refuel, since our flight would be longer due to the detour. We also had problems with the airlines, all of which the organizers of the mission worked 24 hours a day to resolve. Some of us were lucky enough to meet this Timorese woman, Immaculada Enrique, who told us what life was like for her people. She said there were thousands of Timorese who had flocked to the shores of Dili to await the arrival of our boat. She told us that we were the only hope they had because we were raising the attention of the world, and the Timorese could not fight this battle alone. And finally the moment had come for our departure. Many people came to say goodbye, including some Timorese. We were joined here also by our guest, General Romalho Eyanes, past president of Portugal, who would be coming with us on the boat. The endless interviews with the media began. Some of us were experienced at this, but for others it was completely new. The organizers of the mission's work had paid off. The path of our flight was to be Lisbon to Madrid, Madrid to Rome, Rome to Bangkok, Bangkok to Sydney, and Sydney to Darwin, where our boat, the Lusitania Espresso, would meet us. We flew with Thai Airlines for most of the way.
I was quite aware of what was going on in East Timor. I knew quite well that at about 200,000 people have died in the course of 16 years.
Whatever feelings any of us may have had at this moment, we knew that once we got on the plane, we would be halfway to our goal.
Do you think this mission will have any good effect, and what effect?
Well, I think that at the moment we have already a very good effect, and you can see the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Indonesia, Lialatas, going from capital to capital, trying to show that they are very nice and good guys, and all the way that Indonesia takes care of the subject means that they are very, very concerned with it, and this is already exit for this mission.
What do you think will happen when we get to Timor waters?
Any number of things. It's purely speculation. I think it'd be in Indonesia's best interest to turn us around. I don't think they have anything to gain from letting us in. I think you could, at that point, I think they will lose control over the situation if they let us in easily.
Why?
Because, first of all, they've been putting an immense amount of pressure on the people of Timor to not speak with us. And I think people are going to want to speak with us anyways. Secondly, it's harder to control a group once it's off the boat. And once we're there, ideally, I think we wanted to stick together and go straight to the cemetery and lay its wreaths. But I think it's very likely that some people will go off. And that could present a problem for the Indonesians. Even if something happened, if someone was detained, that could create an incident. I think, therefore, that they will probably just turn us around.
Do you think that they will not like the fact that that'll make their image look pretty bad?
Well, I mean, their image is fairly tarnished already, but not to any extreme extent. They've been able to gloss over most of these problems in the past. They're very slick, diplomatic corps, and they're able to explain away most of the discrepancies to people who don't necessarily understand the situation.
We were delayed once again in Thailand when we were not allowed to land in Bangkok, but had to do so at a military base further away. Some people were quite anxious about the meaning of this, others saw it as merely a minor nuisance, but all were relieved after many hours of flight when we finally arrived at our first destination.
Welcome to Bangkok, ladies and gentlemen. We wish you a happy stay in Bangkok.
It would not be long, however, before we were boarding our next flight, and when we arrived in Sydney, we were swarmed once again by the media.
The main objective of this mission is to make the question of East Timor a world question, a well-known question for everyone, to the public opinion.
Back at our hotel, we had a meeting which lasted well into the night to plan how we, the students, would organize ourselves. We formed committees to deal with the tasks at hand, committees which would go to work as soon as we arrived in Darwin. The Indonesian students from Holland gave us their point of view, and we all had opinions to debate, facts to learn, and questions to ask. The biggest question of all, though, was about when we would be getting on the boat, whose arrival at Darwin had also been delayed.
On Friday, the boat arrived to Darwin. If the things go well, Saturday we can go.
Are you prepared to risk your life to support these people by running the Indonesian ships?
I don't believe that this boat is going to run the ships, as you say. If it is stopped, it will accept that. It's an unarmed ship. I'm certainly willing to join it. I would hope to believe that the Indonesian government wouldn't dream of attacking an unarmed ship in the seas of water that is disputed as to who has the international control over this water.
Our arrival at Darwin was exciting because we got even more media attention than usual, which meant more people would learn about East Timor, and because we met many of the journalists who would be joining us on the trip. We also were greeted by many new Timorese faces.
We need also people during all day until we leave Darwin, near the telephones, to receive calls, to take message, supposing. ABC News here in Darwin wanted to make an interview with an American student, a Chinese student.
Paulo Veiga, the professional Portuguese journalist on board, counseled the media committee, which got straight to work at our hotel in Darwin. This was the chance for the students to make the mission their own.
I've spoken with Rui Marques, and he said that I can go on with this. The idea is to contact a radio amateur station here in Darwin, that I have some contacts with them, and so he can spread all the news by radio amateur waves to all the world, and each station around the world can transmit it to the newspapers and radios and so on.
That's good.
A Canadian, David Stewart, was voted to be the media group's managing editor. The tasks of the media group were to arrange interviews and the dissemination of information about the mission to the media around the world, and also to organize press conferences such as this one, where media participation was very high and the panel dealt with the questions as directly and honestly as possible.
I think if we Portuguese have a big responsibility, but the Australians also have a big debt to the Timorese.
One journalist asked us why we had joined the mission.
It's just, I've come on this mission out of a tremendous sense of frustration with the American people and the American press at not really caring about an issue that the U.S. has such an incredible and obvious amount of complicity in. We've turned our backs in '75 when Indonesia invaded, and we continue to supply tremendous amount of military and economic aid to Indonesia, and some of our leaders do their best to lobby others to generally ignore this question in its entirety. And I just feel that it's embarrassing to watch our leaders squirm in a mire of hypocrisy and have nobody care about it.
Perhaps the highlights of the trip thus far were the wonderful receptions the Timorese people gave us in Darwin. In the past 15 years, 200,000 of these East Timorese have been extrajudicially killed. The rest have suffered beatings, torture, rape, forced sterilization and forced abortion, and suppression of culture, language, and religion as part of their everyday life. To meet them and share their fantastic food, dancing, and singing was to remind ourselves that if actions of solidarity were not taken now, these Australian Timorese refugees would be all that is left of the East Timorese culture.
On behalf of the Timorese Association of Faith, I would like to extend a very warm welcome and invite you to share the spirit that unites us here tonight.
Não só tem que estar bandeira uma nautical.
I just arrived.
Ada macam ada.
Sério? Essas são que
Kurang direito para fazer.
Viva os corajosos marinheiros portugueses! Viva! Viva Lusitânia! Viva!
So how are you feeling right now, waiting for the boat?
Well, it's coming finally, and I really want to go tomorrow, really. And I wish that the Indonesian government would let us into Dili.
Do you think the chances are that they'll be incredibly nice so that they can sort of deflate their bad image?
Depends. A lot of it depends on factionalization within the military. Suharto really wants to take the diplomatic course with this, diplomatic or military, but he definitely doesn't want to do anything that's going to make Indonesia look bad. He's trying to recover from the bad press from November. But he doesn't have a lot of control. He doesn't have as much control over the army in Timor as he does over the navy. So I think based on that, he might try and go the naval blockade route. And if we were to be, if they let us land in East Timor, I'm not sure how much control he would have over the situation.
Will it be a failure if we don't get to Dili?
Even you don't get to Dili, but mission, I could say that it succeed.
Why is that?
Because we achieved the goal that to make the rest of the world know about the suffering, the aspiration of these Timorese people for freedom and justice.
Leva-me contigo. Dá wishing.
Plastic sacks.
fronteira de Timor dentro de uma dúzia de horas.
Alarm bells will be sounded, so you'll get familiar with the sound of the alarms. Chief Officer will be to a demonstration how you put on a life jacket.
What are they doing?
Oh, I think they're trying to let us know that they know where we are.
Scare us a little?
I think they probably think they'll scare us a little.
Are you scared?
Not really. I don't think they'll fire on us.
Why wouldn't they?
Because I think there are too many other ships in the area. I think the world is watching. I hope the world is watching.
Recon boat, I'm sure.
There was a rumour before that the captain had told Jean McLean that it was a merchant ship. Then 10 minutes later he changed his mind and said it was a warship. We got no way of knowing. They'll either tell us, they'll come close enough that we can see in the dark what they are, they'll turn all their lights on, or we find out in the morning. There are options.
Como é que isso correu, pá? Sim?
We've just been told that we're now about 10 miles from the territorial waters, where we would expect some contact with these ships. As yet there's been no radio contact, but everyone is out here watching and waiting.
Good morning.
But the sun's almost up. We've just been told by the captain that we're about 8 miles away from territorial waters. When he gets to those limits of the territorial waters, he's going to perform a manoeuvre that will change the direction of our boat to head us toward Dili. That's when he's expecting some contact from our shadow ships here.
É praticamente impossível.
I'm prepared to sit here as long as the mission director decides. I'm taking my direction from him.
Alpha India, Indonesian warship calling you over.
Good morning, sir. This is Portuguese Lusitania Express, Portuguese vessel from Darwin, bound to Dili, East Timor. Over.
This is Papa Kilo Alpha India, Indonesian warship. I am patrolling in this area. You are now in the Indonesian territorial sea. I tell you, directly to leave this area, you're sailing without delay to the high seas through the shortest routes normally used for international navigation. Over.
Roger, sir. Well understood. So I believe that I don't have any permission to continue my voyage to Dili. Is that correct?
This is Papa Kilo Alpha India, Indonesian warship. That's correct.
Do it.
I warn you that during your sailing, you are not allowed to stop, anchoring,
understood Indonesian warship. I just stop my engines now, and I will start to, short while, to turn around on my port side, okay?
This is Papa Kilo Alpha India, Roger, you will tune to port. Standing by.
Standing by.